Buckley. I was teaching a U.S. history class, which is an 11th grade, generally 11th grade class. This particular class, however, is about 50-50 split with 11th and 12th graders. It is a standard U.S. class with predominantly ELL students. So today we did an activity where there was a learning check in the unit, so it was a bigger chunk of learning. We were on the 1920s. So the learning check reflected the social change of the 20s and the lessons that we did that corresponded with that. The directions tell you that we're going to take a practice quiz on the 1920s, so you need your computers. What's the P word up there? Practice. Need to see what you guys know and don't know before we start moving on. Okay, so we're kind of at the halfway point of the unit. When I wrote the quiz questions, I specifically looked at everything what we had learned in the week and a half that we've had, and I made sure I had one question per content area. That was much more bigger picture. So when the kids finished the quiz, I looked at the item analysis. You can tag the questions in BCPS 1 by standards as well, if that works for you. And I literally I looked at the questions from two different ways. I looked just to see what the basic scores of the kids were. And then I took a look at the questions based on what they got wrong. So if four students all got questions 1, 2, and 3 wrong, well, then I could focus the small group instruction on questions 1, 2, and 3. And if they got the rest correct, then we didn't need to focus on that. So I really looked at the types of questions, and then I lumped them together like that so I could kind of tailor their small group. Oops. So I kind of like to do it by performance for you can take a look at the questions and how they did. So that's a better way of grouping it. Mm-hmm. So obviously we have some room to work. So with the data from the learning check, I divided kids into small groups, and what I did is I used the skill level that I know and their scores, and I kind of combined them using both of those criterion. So I took the data and divided them generally by the type of questions that they got correct or incorrect, the number that they got incorrect, and then I also used some of the other challenges that they just bring to the table. And I lumped them together so it was easier to help with the questions and the review and some of the challenges that they face. Fatima, Bolu, Nancy, come on back. Musical quizzes. So you struggled a little with the practice quiz. Again, this was practice. I don't want you to get nervous, but I want to discuss some of the questions. So what were some of the events we talked about in the 1920s? What are some of the things we talked about? Everyone's open to immigration. What are we afraid of? Jobs, communists, radicals, all these different ideas. Okay, so those are, when I looked at the questions that you guys got wrong, those were some of the things I think we need to just look at. But that video does a good job of recapping some of that. And if you want some more specific help with any of the readings, let me know. Okay. Had the kids work independently on new work that wasn't very difficult, but that sort of set a foundation for moving forward. The new work today also did have a little bit of review in it, just so the transition made more sense to the students. And then I pulled the groups back, and using mostly questioning, help them to really think about what we've learned from a bigger picture perspective, because the questions in the formative assessment were much bigger picture, where a lot of them understood the smaller pieces but then had trouble putting it together in its entire form. So we are going to be today using this Padlet, the 1920s economy. So you might want to just have that up and ready, so when we get started you're kind of already there. For today, when we look at the Padlet, because I'm going to have you guys working independently on the Padlet while I call groups back and we kind of work together and try to get some of those missing gaps caught up. Okay, so if you take a look at the Padlet, and this is how I usually organize it, so this is nothing too crazy, but we're going to take a look. I divided it into several parts, and if you notice, your worksheet is coordinated along with those. So for example, like I have part 1 titled, everything you need to answer the questions under part 1 on your worksheet should come right from this. This is a crash course video. Yes, you can hit closed caption so you can listen to what he's saying. Okay, now that video, just as a heads up, does give you a little bit of a review of some of the social things that we talked about in the 20s. And get started on this. Everybody has what they need. I'm going to start calling folks back. Got to give me a few minutes so I can take a look at the quiz. For a lot of students, they need a little bit more one-on-one attention, and if you can attempt to get them together based on a skill or a content deficiency or efficiency, then you can really narrow down what the challenge is, as opposed to reteaching an entire lesson where maybe that small group only misunderstood one small piece. And for time purposes, a little small group sometimes actually allows the students to regroup, get a better understanding without then wasting an entire class period when they understood the other piece is just not their little one section. Things I want you to concentrate on the first part of that video. African Americans in the 20s. Women and prohibition. Okay. So in addition to the questions you have to listen to, I want you to take some notes on that, because that's the questions that you guys struggled a little bit with on the quiz. Okay. So when you go to retake it, it's a better review for you. Okay. So I think that any attempt at personalization and working with a smaller group on just smaller chunks of learning or a specific skill lets students build their own confidence in their ability to regroup. But it allows the teachers to really focus in on what the students are challenged by. So not only does it help you with this particular piece of learning, but moving forward, if you know that these students are challenged with a particular skill, you can maybe make adaptations to your lesson before you even teach the lesson. So it's not just about this particular piece of skill or content, it's about moving forward as well.